With these can-do videos, you'll learn real-life situations where you have to introduce yourself, talk about your family, or open a bank account. So, by the end, you can do them yourself, in the target language. This video is a small portion of our can-do course. To get the full course, including translations, grammar tools, and assessment tests, click the link in the description. Welcome to Can Do Spanish by SpanishPod101.com.
Hola a todos. Soy Víctor Trejo. Hi everyone. I'm Víctor Trejo. In this lesson, you'll learn how to ask about somebody's well-being.
This is Mark Lee, and he's in the office break room. He greets Jorge Soto, a colleague, and asks, "How are you?"
¿Cómo estás?
Listen to the conversation and focus on the question. Ready?
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, gracias.
Once more with the English translation.
¿Cómo estás?
How are you?
Bien, gracias.
Fine, thank you. Wondering how you can master these conversations even faster? Here's how. 1. Read along. You get the lesson conversation and translations inside our dialogue tool, so that you see each word as you hear it and understand it all. 2. Practice speaking by shadowing what you hear. You can also record and compare yourself with native speakers with our voice recording tool. And 3. Take our assessment tests and see how much you remember. These tools are part of our Can Do course. Just click the link in the description to get them.
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
First, do you remember how Mark asks, "How are you?"
¿Cómo estás?
First is,
¿Cómo?
how.
¿Cómo? ¿Cómo?
Next is,
¿Estás?
you are.
¿Estás? ¿Estás?
Note,
¿Estás?
is the shortened form of
¿Tú estás?
you are. In Spanish,
¿Tú?
you is usually omitted as it's understood from context.
¿Estás?
Is from the verb,
Estar.
meaning to be.
Estar.
Altogether it's,
¿Cómo estás?
how are you?
¿Cómo estás?
Note the rising intonation to mark that it's a question.
¿Cómo estás?
Let's take a closer look at the response. Do you remember how Jorge says, "Fine, thank you"?
Bien, gracias.
Fine, thank you.
Bien, gracias.
First is,
Bien,
fine.
bien. Bien,
Here
bien.
is the shortened form of,
Yo estoy bien.
I'm fine.
Yo estoy bien. Yo estoy.
Is omitted as it is understood from context.
Estoy.
Is from the verb,
Estar.
meaning to be.
Estar.
Next is,
Gracias.
meaning thank you.
Gracias. Gracias.
Altogether it's,
Bien, gracias.
fine, thank you.
Bien, gracias.
The question
¿Cómo estás?
can be used in informal situations. However, for formal situations, use the following pattern.
¿Cómo está usted?
How are you?
¿Cómo está usted?
Simply replace
¿Estás?
the informal version of you are, with
¿Está usted?
the formal version of you are. First is the word,
Está.
literally is, but translates as are, as in you are, for formal situations.
Está. Está. Está.
Is from the verb,
Estar.
meaning to be in Spanish.
Estar.
Next is the word,
Usted.
the formal word for you.
Usted. Usted.
Altogether, it's
¿Cómo está usted?
how are you?
¿Cómo está usted?
Note that when asking about one's well-being in formal situations, the word for you
Usted.
is included. Imagine you're Sonia Hernandez, Mark's Spanish teacher. Ask about Mark's well-being using formal Spanish. Ready?
¿Cómo está usted?
How are you?
¿Cómo está usted?
For the response, both of the following are okay.
Bien, gracias. Estoy bien, gracias.
In Spanish, there are two verbs that translate as to be
Ser.
and,
Estar.
when talking about well-being, use.
Estar.
So when responding to
¿Cómo estás?
how are you, always use the verb
Estar.
as in
Estoy bien.
I'm fine. Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, gracias.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, gracias. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien.
¿Cómo está usted?
Bien, gracias.
¿Cómo está usted?
Bien, gracias.
¿Cómo estás?
Más o menos.
¿Cómo estás?
Más o menos.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien. ¿Y tú?
¿Cómo estás?
Bien. ¿Y tú? Did you notice how I ended the last response with a question?
Wondering how you can master these conversations even faster? Here's how. 1. Read along. You get the lesson conversation and translations inside our dialogue tool, so that you see each word as you hear it and understand it all. 2. Practice speaking by shadowing what you hear. You can also record and compare yourself with native speakers with our voice recording tool. And 3. Take our assessment tests and see how much you remember. These tools are part of our Can Do course. Just click the link in the description to get them.
Bien. ¿Y tú?
Fine, and you? First is
Bien.
fine.
Bien.
Again,
Bien.
is the shortened form of
Yo estoy bien.
I'm fine. Next is
¿Y tú?
and you?
¿Y tú?
First is
¿Y?
and.
¿Y? ¿Y?
Next is
Tú.
an informal word meaning you.
Tú. Tú.
Together it's
¿Y tú?
meaning and you.
¿Y tú?
You can use this phrase to reciprocate the question when someone asks you about your well-being. For example, if someone says,
¿Cómo estás?
you can respond with,
Bien. ¿Y tú?
first, respond to the question. Then inquire about the other person's well-being with,
¿Y tú?
and you? Note, as
Tú.
you is informal, this expression is appropriate for informal situations. Remember this pattern.
Bien. ¿Y tú?
You'll see it again later. Let's review the key vocabulary.
Muy bien.
Very good.
Muy bien. Muy bien. Más o menos.
So-so.
Más o menos. Más o menos.
Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember the word for how? ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo?
Do you remember how Mark Lee asks, how are you?
¿Cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás? Do you remember the word for fine? Bien. Bien. And do you remember how to say thank you? Gracias. Gracias.
Do you remember how Jorge Soto says, fine, thank you?
Bien, gracias.
Bien. Gracias.
Do you remember how to say, and you?
¿Y tú? ¿Y tú? Do you remember how to say very good? Muy bien. Muy bien.
Let's practice. Imagine you're Jorge, Mark's colleague. Ask how Mark is doing using informal Spanish. Ready?
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Listen again and repeat.
¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás?
Let's try another. Imagine you're Karen's teacher, Sonia Hernandez. Ask about Karen's well-being using formal Spanish. Ready?
¿Cómo está usted?
Bien. Gracias.
Listen again and repeat.
¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo está usted?
Let's try one more. Imagine you're Sasha, and you meet your friend at school. Respond by saying, fine, and you? Ready?
¿Cómo estás?
Bien. ¿Y tú?
Listen again and repeat.
Bien. ¿Y tú? Bien. ¿Y tú?
This is the end of this lesson.
Now, here's what you can do to cement this conversation in your head. Review the conversation with our dialogue tool and lesson transcripts. Study the key words and phrases with our spaced repetition flashcards. Review the key grammar and cultural tips inside the lesson notes. And test yourself with our assessment tests. So click the link in the description right now to sign up for your free lifetime account to access our Can-Do course.
Hasta la próxima. See you next time.